everyone, good evening. Yet another session on women wellness. Sorry for the big gap in between. I was down with COVID, but glad to be back. And we have with us Protima. Hi, Protima.
Hi everyone.
So, a little quote to start with: not flesh of my flesh, nor bone of my bone, but still miraculously my own. Never forget for a single minute you didn't grow under my heart, but in it. Such beautiful lines. I mean, I melted when I read this. Choosing to adopt a child is a life-changing decision, which is made with a lot of thought. There has to be a lot of thought, behind thinking about adoption. If you personally don't know anyone who has adopted a child, the process can be terribly daunting and lonely. It can be confusing and mentally taxing. That's the reason why we have got Protima here, who I think is the best person to demystify everything about adoption. She's an adoptive mother of 2 daughters, and she's a certified adoption counselor. She counsels couples as well as single parents who would like to build families through adoption. Pratima, I'm so happy to have you on this platform.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Pratima, before we get into rest of the questions, just a brief about yourself. How did you what are you exactly into, and what do you do?
What do I do? Okay, so I'm Protima. Hi, everyone. I'm an adoptive mother. I've got 2 daughters, 6 and 2.5. Both came in our family through adoption. I also run my own consulting firm. I'm a managing partner at PeopleWiz Consulting. And in addition to that, I have co-founded an NGO, Where Are India's Children, that works on child rights and essentially looking at how more and more orphaned and abandoned children can be brought into adoption pool or can be brought to the best possible outcome for them. So that's what I do. As a counselor, I think it's been 5 years since I've been trying my best to help couples as well as singles to demystify adoption, to understand the legal process, some of the social nitty-gritties of bringing a child home. So that's what I do.
Oh, that's amazing. That's called multitasking, I'm sure. So if you have passion, it shows that you can do whatever you want. You get time out of your busy schedule to do where your heart lies. So, Pratima, how did you get into counseling? How did you get into counseling for couples as well as singles about adoption? What prompted you?
To be honest, Shilpa, when I was going through my first adoption, I had a lot of questions. I had so many questions that I wish I could speak to somebody. And there was really nobody, qualified available to speak to me. I read, I got blogs, I got articles, books, as much as I could educate myself. But I genuinely felt the need to be able to have a heart-to-heart discussion. And that's when I realized that when this opportunity came up, that you can actually do a professional course in adoption counseling, I thought this was the right thing to do. Got myself certified with Families of Joy, that runs the only adoption counseling course in the country. And since then, it's been 5 years, been trying to help as many people as I can, really, to answer the questions that they have. So we speak to couples who are exploring adoption. We speak to couples who've already registered and waiting for the child. We speak to couples who've brought the child home and have some questions. So the people are in different stages,
Correct.
So there's a legal process, there's a social process, all those kind of things we try and answer as much as we can.
That's like, I'm sure you must be having like a lot of people coming to you, since we don't have enough certified adoption counselors in our country as yet. I'm sure there might be like a lot of people with a lot of questions, right? So when should a couple or a single person opt for adoption? I mean, honestly, the base behind this is I, being an endometriosis patient, endo warrior, a lot of women like me, have issues conceiving or have to undergo hysterectomy, before having the child. All right. So I wanted to check what do you suggest? When should a couple or a single person think about adoption?
So it is such a personal choice, really. Nothing stops you from looking at adoption as first option, middle option, last option, whatever. It doesn't have to be the last option. Legally, you have to be just 25 years of age,
Okay.
financially stable. If you're married, then 2 years of stable married life. That's really it. That's all they is expected out of you. You have to decide when you are ready to be a parent. Parenting is a huge responsibility. Bringing a
Absolutely.
child home, being responsible for a citizen of the country. You have to give the kind of values and give the kind of nurturing that you have to give to a child. You have to be ready for that. And when you're ready for that, adoption is a great choice. We come across people who have biological children who are adopting, who don't have biological children they're adopting, who are adopting infants, toddlers, teenagers, special needs. It is such a personal choice. You have to have the conviction that, yeah, I'm ready to be able to provide a home to a child. And I don't have to look at adoption as the last resort at all, because adoption can be a choice that I can make any day. Any day I can register. Nothing stops me. The only thing that stops me is my conviction and how ready I feel. And what is the understanding between the couple? If you're a couple, then obviously both husband and parents, you have to come together, the husband and the wife, you have to come together jointly and make this choice, because it's a team effort that you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So more than anything else, I think you have to be ready to be a parent.
Yeah.
And honestly speaking, a lot of people, a lot of women I have spoken to, a lot of people I know of, I mean, as a doctor, as a professional, I'm a dentist, but obviously with dentists, I think a lot of people come for a lot of appointments, right? So you develop that bond. So people start talking to you. And I've seen a lot of people, a lot of couples going through a lot of emotional turmoil because they have been having recurrent IVF failures. There's hormones being pumped into your body. Your body breaks. You mentally break. So somehow, somewhere, I feel rather than torturing yourself, I don't say don't go for IVF, but that why do you don't want to think about adoption? Why is such a big taboo about adoption?
Yeah. So right, and the people do share a lot of times women have had miscarriages or some other issues, and they would think about adoption, and they would be really down when you're speaking to you. And I think before I even tell them about adoption, the first thing that we do is try to just cheer them up and bring them up, and then think about adoption. And I think one thing that I've told people, and I genuinely believe that there's a reason if biologically things are not working out. There's a child waiting somewhere for you. Right? He's waiting somewhere. So maybe that's the match that you're waiting for. So there's nothing nothing makes you less or more biological adopted. Nothing. All that is in our head. It's such regressive thinking if you start thinking like that, because world is changing at such a fast pace. And you have to think of the fact that there are so many children who would be great, who would love to have you as a parent. And you would be so thrilled to have a child like that. So there's somebody waiting. There's somebody waiting, definitely.
No, I really feel that even the doctors, the gynecologists have to have an open mind about adoptions, because when I was going through my treatment, I was not going through an IVF or any conception treatment, but saying that my gynac kept pestering me for going through an IVF, even though I was telling her that I will adopt a child if I want to. All right, I really don't have to go through all of it. And she kept pestering, that Shilpa, I don't want that when you're 40, you shouldn't feel that you should have a biological child. So somewhere that mindset has to change.
Yeah, it has to. Yeah. Let it start with you, Don't wait for others to fit their mindset. You start with yourself.
The mindset. So now the other thing that comes to my mind is when somebody is looking for adopting a child, what should be the preparation about it? I mean, is there something specific they need to prepare?
See, one is you should know about the process. Yeah. thankfully in India, the entire process has been centralized. No longer you can just go into an orphanage and start picking and choosing children. That is very Bollywoodish. This doesn't happen in real life. They show all that for their TRP. We should not believe in all that. So this system is actually very streamlined and proper. So you should educate yourself on what's the system. Where do you register, what choices you are asked to make, and what is the entire process that you should be going through. So do that. Educate yourself on the process. Second is, I think, learn to be a parent. If you're not already a parent, if you already don't have a biological child, it's so important to learn parenting. Whether it is adoptive child or a biological. Invest in that. And the other thing is, I think communication for me was a big thing, because when we decided to have our first adoption, funnily enough, like me and my husband literally sat down and made an Excel sheet of who all do we need to tell and how. Who should get a WhatsApp, who should get a face-to-face, who should get an email, and we should forget about them. So I think and what's the message that I'm giving? The message that I was giving was of happiness, positivity, the best thing that's happening to me. So when I start thinking like that, and we made our communication plan, and that's how we executed, it helped, because it really reduced my anxiety. Correct. Because my biggest anxiety went away the day I decided to adopt. It was like a huge weight lifted off the shoulders, because in adoption, you're 100% sure that you'll get a child. No other method makes it 100%. Yeah. And then, just manage your anxiety by preparing so well and studying as much as you can, blogs, making sure that both you and your husband are ready for this, and you talked about everything. Learn about positive adoption language. It's so important. It's a very simple thing, but saying own child. Like, even an adopted child is my own child. He or she is just not my biological child, So learn the right language. What language I should be using with my children. Learn about disclosure, when and how to tell the child, how to prepare the child, and do I need to? And get answers to those questions. And maybe I can answer that for you also later.
I will come to that.
Yeah. So just prepare yourself in that way. And I think just focus on being the best possible version of yourself as a parent. It's a huge responsibility you're getting into, and just focus on that. And that takes care of most of the worry that you might have.
That the Excel sheet thing was like quite interesting.
Yes. I'm an engineer, I can't help it.
It surely was. And I think it's going to help a lot of other people who have been planning on adopting and thinking about ways to, disclose about or communicate. So now it might sound a little cliche, but psychologically, how easy is it to accept a child who is not your biological child? Because a lot of people have this inhibition about not having a biological child. The child is somebody you have got from outside.
Yeah.
So how is it to accept?
Well, first thing first, if you're married, you have already experienced adoption. Marriage is the biggest adoption, right? You get a 25-year-old probably, or 28-year-old. You learn to love each other. You learn to tolerate each other at times. Build a house and build a life together. Loving the child. Compared to that, most natural thing in the world. It's so natural. The kind of feeling of nurturing that you have towards a child when that child comes to you, especially when the child has nobody and just you. Then very, very naturally, automatically, you start having this feeling of, okay, I have to take care of this little baby or this child or this teenager. I think that's what you need to remember. Yeah, and somehow, I take great exception to the word accepting another child, because to me, I think we need to approach this with a perspective of gratitude. You're being offered an opportunity to take care of another life, to nurture another life. It's like God standing in front of you telling you, yeah, take it. You don't say, am I ready to accept it? You say, what do I do to be worthy of this? What do I do to become, the best possible to take care of this child? And that's how you need to approach it. Stop worrying about it. It's again very Bollywoodish. It doesn't happen in real life. When there's a child in front of you, when there's a child in your house, when you're the only person responsible to take care of the child, you just do it. You just do it. Such a natural thing.
So there is, actually speaking, no difference between a biological child and an adopted child. It's just a child. It's just a child.
Just child, right?
Child is just a child, and it'll just not take you things to accept the child.
Yeah.
You just do it.
You just do it. You got married. I'm telling you, you managed it. Like you aced it. You can do this. It's easy compared to marriage.
I know. Adopting a child is much easier. You don't have to do a lot of other things. I mean, obviously, a child will be always a child. So
yeah, but bonding is not. I don't think bonding's not that great a problem as we make it out to be.
True.
You have to just trust yourself with it. Trust the process.
So I think it's just made big. Biological child per se, it's just show. It's too overrated. That's what I feel, if I may say that. So when the child is there, okay, once you get the child home, how should you deal with the child? And should the child be told about adoption? Whether the child should know that the child is adopted.
Yeah.
And if yes, how do you do it?
So let's talk about disclosure a little bit, okay? So there are two angles looking at it. One is a social angle. You say you don't tell the child, and as the child grows, a third person tells the child. That's like devastating for a child to find out from somebody else such an important part of his or her life, such an important information. You don't want that to happen. You want your child to be so secured and so confident in your love and affection that the child can actually respond to people when they have funny attitudes towards adoption. So that's the kind of child that we want to bring up. The other part is the legal part. In India, we follow closed adoption, which means that as an adoptive parent, I am never told anything about I'm not given any information about the biological parents of the child. And similarly, biological parents are not given any information about the adoptive parents of the child. These children are legally free to be adopted. There is no legal claim on these children, which is why they've come in the adoption pool. So you never find out about the biological parents. They have no clue about the adoptive parents. However, when the child turns 18, when the child's an adult, he or she has the right to do a root search. He or she can go and find out all information that is being held about him or her at the agency. He can go and ask. To me, citizen of the country, information being held, keeping such an important thing away is just not right. I think I'm taking away a legal right. I have no right to do that. It's just unfair to the child. Our focus has to be, how do I give my child age-appropriate messages to understand adoption and normalize adoption in their life? Yeah? So I've got my baby girl when she was 3 months old, and then she started growing. Now she's 6. And every few years, she's got different. So when she was 2-3 years old, the only thing she could understand is that I look a little different from my mama. That's it. She doesn't understand anything else, So we bought her stories. A little chick who looks different from her mom, and then the little chick is looking for the mom, and finally the chick finds a bear. The bear looks very different, but still they're happy together. So we try to tell her that it's okay to look different from your parents. That's fine. Now she's 6. She started asking questions about pregnancy. I mean, what's that? What's birth? So you sit down and you have another chat and say, this is how it works. Adoption is just another way you bring a family together. And you answer whatever question they have. You be honest as you can be. And in an age-appropriate fashion, you answer their questions. And without worrying too much, we underestimate the maturity of children. They're very, very mature, especially in this day and age. You need to be very honest with them and tell them whatever you know in a very balanced, matured manner, and the messages that they understand. Like my 2-year-old doesn't understand birth, death. She doesn't get all that. She doesn't understand anything for that matter. Right?
Obviously, in 2 years, she's like barely.
Yeah, but you have to prepare yourself. Like, for example, when I go for adoption counselling camps, she comes with me. when I'm having it's a very common conversation in the house about adoption. So we know that word is very commonly used. So she understands it. And that's how we have to prepare our children.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So it's more about making things feel normal rather than getting into something weird.
Making it a big deal. It's not. It's
Absolutely.
not. It's one event. It's over. That's what I tell her. It doesn't have to be a permanent adjective in anybody's life. It's just a different way of coming together. That's it.
But all in all, you should tell the child about it. That's something
in the right way, in the right manner, in the right way, and answer their question. And be patient. They'll process it themselves also. They'll process it.
Absolutely. So are there certain kind of changes that need to be done before getting the child home, in the sense some kind of change in the home, or maybe the way you stay, your lifestyle, those kinds? Is there something specific that you would suggest?
Nothing specific related to adoption. I think depending, when you're going through the process, you're asked a certain questions about the age range and all that, so you'd know in what age the child would come, and there's a sufficient waiting period also, so you get time to prepare yourself. So accordingly, you can prepare. Like for 0 to 2 years, you would be buying.
So it's generally like any child.
Yeah, and then if it's an infant and a toddler, they would have different needs. Depending on the need of the child, you'll have to prepare yourself, and the house also. Simple things like if it's a 2-year-old, they would already be used to sleeping on their own, maybe because in an agency they can't have an adult sleeping next to them. So you might have to remember that some of these things you might have to remember, that the child is used to a certain way. Ask a lot of questions when you go and bring the child. Favorite doll, what milk they take, what kind of milk, all those kind of things, and just educate yourself and make sure that you're able to provide an environment which is as close to the agency's environment as possible, at least initially. And then obviously,
so that it doesn't have a shock, a big change for the child. Yeah. So Protima, what generally is the time frame for adoption? I mean, how much waiting time? Like you just said that there is a waiting time.
There is.
What's the kind of a waiting time that we're talking about?
So at the moment, registration process is pretty simple. You just very quickly register on an online form. You upload your documents. You have a home study report in which a social worker comes to you and looks at your documents.
We'll go into the details about the adoption.
Right. Yes. The wait period varies from the age limits. So 0 to 2 is the most sought after. So the age limit are 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 2 to 2 years. And since it's the most sought after range, it is upwards of 2 years that you have to wait for that particular age range. Higher would be a little lesser. CARA, which is the central body that regulates all adoption, it has other options also for you to adopt, like there's something called immediate placement, where there is no waiting period. There are special needs children, no waiting period. So all that's also possible. But for a healthy, normal child from 0 to 2, you would be waiting upwards of 2 years easily at the moment.
So all in all, a person gets 2 years to prepare themselves. Which is like good enough time. Which is like a good enough time to get prepared.
So absolutely. Yeah.
So I think I was just talking to somebody. So this was a discussion that had come that people generally get 9 months when they're having a biological child. 9 months to prepare themselves and people around them. But here you're getting 2 years, which is like good enough time for you and your family to get hang of the complete idea of a child. Of the child coming over. So now the other thing that's hitting me all the time, that's creating a buzz in my head, is the society. How do you deal with the society? Because I think the society sometimes is not very kind when it comes to adoptive children and adoptive parents. So how do you deal with them?
So the way I look at it is, when I told people about adoption and the decision that I've taken and bringing this little girl home, I was so happy that I got only happiness in return. It really depends on you. So if you say, wow, that's something I'm celebrating, I'm thrilled about the fact that this child is coming to me. Somebody sitting in front of you doesn't have a choice but to be happy for you. The moment you start saying that, no, it was the last resort, we tried this, we tried that. If you go in this fashion, you'll get sympathy in return. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking to share your joy. So bring joy to the conversation. That is what you get back. Okay? But that's you. That's your conviction. But having said that, there would be times when people will ask some awkward question or make a remark about the child. And this is what I have realized. When all of us were growing up, Shilpa, somebody was pulled for being fat, thin, short, tall, dark, too fair, all sorts. So it is going to happen that maybe your child might have to listen to this also. And you have to make sure that you nurture such a confident child that the child just turns around and says, do you even know what you're talking about? It's such a great thing that happened to me. I'm so happy to be part of this family. And that's your responsibility. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. You can worry about what you are thinking and how you are approaching the world. Society, let the society worry about itself. Don't bother too much. Your job has to be, how do I keep my child in an environment which is positive? I can't have my child in an environment which is negative to the child or will bring the self-esteem of the child down. I can't have that. So as a parent, that's my job to safeguard. But also as a parent, you can't be there for the child all the times, So you have to make sure that it's a very secure and confident child that you're bringing up. And that's how I look at it.
Makes sense. I think it's very similar to what bringing up a biological child is. You just have to bring up a confident child, because obviously we are all used to being bullied at school or college or generally, some way or the other. So it's just another thing. So now, fine. Now parents are mentally prepared to adopt a child. What is the legal process? This is something which is like scary for most of the people.
No.
So what's the legal process?
Actually, it's been streamlined to such a great extent, the process, that you should not, first thing, just throw that idea out of your mind that it is scary. It is not. You have to go online, just like you're making a passport application, as simple as that. There's a form, you fill it up. You are asked certain questions about gender, boy or girl, or any sibling, healthy, special needs, location of the child. So they give you choices whether you want to go for all India, the child can be anywhere and you would like to adopt, or you would like to choose certain states from which you would like to adopt. So you're given 3 choices of states. And that's really it. So you fill that up. And then you choose your nearest adoption agency from where somebody will come and do your home study report. The 6 or 7 basic documents that you upload on the system, which is your identity, address, ITR, those kind of things, fitness certificate, marriage certificate if you're married. So you upload these documents. Within 2 to 3 months, your HSR would be conducted by a social worker from that agency. He or she will come to you, ask you questions about the documents, your motivation to adopt. They're just doing their due diligence to ensure that the child is going to a good family. So I think we should let them do that, a good job of that. We should be honest in our answers. Yeah. And they upload the HSR, and that's when you're allotted a seniority number. And that's when the wait period starts. After that, you just wait. You wait for a year, couple of years, and then you get a ping on your phone saying a child is being matched. You log onto the system. There's a photograph of the child, medical report, child study report. You're given about 48 hours, a little more because of the pandemic now, but usually 48 hours to accept the child on the system. You accept it. You're given 20 days, a little bit more because of the pandemic now, but 20 days usually to go meet the child and get into a foster care agreement with the agency. You go meet the child. There's a panel interview there also, because imagine 2 years might have passed since your first home study report. So they'll ask you questions and look at your documents again. And then you get into a foster care agreement. You accept the child and bring the child home. It is then the agency's responsibility to get a date in the family court in the same jurisdiction. which is now. This might change later because there's been a change suggested where district magistrates might start passing the adoption order. At the moment, it is the family courts who pass the adoption order. So within 3 months of the foster care agreement, you're supposed to appear with the child in a family court, and the judge will then pass an adoption order saying that this adoption has been legalized. The agency uses that document to get a fresh birth certificate for the child. That will have you and your husband's, your parents' name as the parents of the child. Most important document, because that's what you need for Aadhaar, passport, and all that, the birth certificate. That's really it. And that's it.
Well, it's not as complicated as I thought it is, because everyone has this thing in mind about legal process, which is like crazy. But this sounds simple. It's not.
Yeah, I think no. Legally, if you ask me, quasi-legal initially, because HSR and the panel interview, they take care of a lot of things, and then it goes to the family court. So depending, like our first adoption, my elder one in Pune, it was a breeze. It was nothing. Second one was in Varanasi. So a little bit of up and down, the judge wanting you to come again and again. That did happen because that generally happens with court things, But overall, the process is very, very straightforward. There's really nothing complicated in the process, not even in terms of documents, nothing. It's a myth. The waiting time is high because of various reasons. There are just not enough children in the adoption pool, which is a bigger problem in our country. Despite so many children living in shelters in our country, in lakhs and lakhs, there are barely 2,000, 3,000 children in the adoption pool. At the moment, 30,000 parents are waiting to adopt. They're registered to adopt.
But so then why is this happening? Why this gap? Where is this gap coming from?
Because of many reasons. In fact, that's what my NGO works on. To make a child legally free for adoption, they have to go through a few hoops. They have to make sure that there is no legal claim on the child. If the child was found abandoned, it's a little easier because they put an ad in the paper and they make sure that nobody has claimed the child. If it's a surrendered child, they have to make sure that they give time to the biological parents to think about it and then form a surrender deed. A lot of times, so many children are stuck in shelters because they have one relative left and that relative has not given up the legal claim. A lot of time, those kind of things. There is gradual abandonment also. So there are a lot of issues there. I think that's a lot of stuff that needs to be done there in terms of solving this problem as to how do we make sure that more and more children go through adoption inquiries and eligible children quickly move through the adoption pool so that they're not stuck in shelters. But right now, that's a huge problem in our country.
It must be so sad. I mean, there are so many children waiting for families. There are so many families waiting for children.
Yeah.
And there's such a big gap. Just out of context, but so now because of this pandemic, since we're talking about this pandemic thing, we've been getting a lot of messages, right, about children losing their parents, both the parents. Okay, and there have been WhatsApp messages about adopt this child. Is it really legal? You just cannot go and pick up the child, right?
And in all probability, these are fake messages that are being sent by child traffickers, and which is what worries us the most. Because even if there is 1% chance that there's a child like that who badly needs help, the right thing to do is call 1098, which is the child line. The right thing to do is to find out which is the nearest specialized adoption agency to the child and take the child there. That's the right thing to do. You don't start sending messages saying who wants the child.
I was surprised when I saw that. I was like, this is not how it works. Yeah. So, Protima, since you have been seeing so many adoptions, how as a society can we normalize adoption?
By talking about it, what you're doing right now. Talking about it as normally as you can, by writing about it, by making sensible movies about it also,
True.
And I hope for a society where we can soon, normally talk about adoption and it's not considered taboo. So many legal changes have to be brought in. The rights of an adopted child have to be looked at. And recently, there was such a positive order that Indian Railways passed. So they actually reversed one of their 20-year-old order to say that health benefits would be passed. So if you're a railways employee, Health benefits were being passed only to one adopted child. Whereas, I mean, even if you have a biological child, all biological children were getting
Correct,
health benefits.
correct.
It's just wrong.
Absolutely.
So they reversed that order. In
Oh,
fact,
that's
families of
correct.
joy was part of
That's
the PIL was, and they reversed. And similarly, maternity leave, the Maternity Benefit Act today is very discriminatory towards adoptive mothers. They don't get the same benefits that.
what they don't,
Uh,
is it?
so it's very less the number of leaves which are being given for adoption compared to natural birth. So
Mm.
I think legally some things need to change. As a society, we need to be very open about it, you know, and speak to children. I think they are the future, right? We've done whatever we could. Children have to be very open about it. Children have to understand what this is. Don't hide this information from children. That adoption is just another thing that happens. Um, my 6-year-old saw a lady pregnant, and she turned to me and said, "Oh, ma, she decided not to adopt, and that's okay. That's okay." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's okay."
That's how smart kids are.
Yeah.
That's how they are. No doubt about it.
I think
Isn't that?
speaking to children is so important, and just speaking to each other about it and being okay with it. That's. I will get there eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I read this very beautiful line somewhere. It's important to realize that we adopt not because we are rescuers. No,
Mm.
we adopt because we are rescued. I mean, this
Mm.
holds so true.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so
I
right.
mean, we try to show that we are being like so nice to adopt
Yeah.
something,
Oh my God.
but trust me, what I feel is, I think once you adopt, you give yourself that pleasure of
Hmm.
having a family, having
Yeah.
the
So
capacity to
true.
nurture somebody. You
Yes,
know,
so true. Which is also one really awkward reaction you get, as an adoptive parent. Oh, wow, you did such a good deed. I'm like, if there's a charity case here, it's me because I'm the one
I
who's
know,
rescued.
true, true. So
It's
I was
somebody
just
else.
reading it, and it was like so beautiful. I was like, so true. Don't a lot of people, I don't know, maybe a lot of them are not like that, but some of the people that I have seen or I've heard about, they adopt and then they keep telling people, oh, we adopted because we wanted to do something for the society. Like, God,
No, no, no.
you're not doing that.
It's not charity. No, not at all. Not at all. It's life changing. It's such a beautiful thing that has happened to you. You need to be thankful for being able to have the opportunity to bring up a child. I think that's the way you need to look at it. And you're so right. I mean, we need to stop making it a big deal for everybody, whether it's adoptive parent or biological parent, and
True,
just
true. A
treat it
parent is a
as
parent,
another
biological or
choice.
adoptive. That's what.
Yeah, just
There's no
another
title
choice.
to it. There's no prefix to it.
That's right.
Adoptive, biological, God knows what all. But then it's so nice speaking to you when people like you come and talk. I think it's such a pleasure because every
Mhm.
time we talk about some health issue or the other all the time. This is such a lovely topic to talk about. So here I think my mom has asked this question. Is there an
Okay.
ideal age for a child to be adopted?
Oh, no, I think, at the moment, there are children in all ages who are waiting to be adopted in our country. There is no ideal age for that. There is no, I mean, is there an ideal age for a child to become an orphan? Mm, You know, it can happen to any child at any point of time. So you just need to be ready to provide what the child needs as a parent at that moment of time, or his or age, or or her circumstances. I think that's the way it is.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
my last question for you would be, is there a age limit? Is there any age limit for for the couple or the parent to adopt a child? It's
So
optional. My mom has asked.
there's a guideline.
Hmm.
And there are certain slabs that you have to follow, and they go by the cumulative age of the couple. So husband and wife's age put together. If it is less than 90, then you're allowed to adopt a child between 0 to 4. So you can either choose 0 to 2 or 2 to 4. But if it is above 90, then it becomes 4 to 6. Above 110, then it becomes 6 to 8, like that. So there are slabs like that. which is suggested. The system itself will stop you from moving across the slabs.
Okay, it's given in the system itself.
In the system itself, hard-coded. Hard-coded. The minute you put your date of birth and you make your choices, it's hard-coded.
Okay, all right, all right. That was like such an amazing session, Protima. I mean, I for the viewers also, I think it was as informative and as interesting as it. I mean, for me, it was like absolutely enlightening. It was like one of the best sessions that I have ever been to. And so I hope the viewers also enjoyed it. Any parting any parting note for the viewers?
No, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to write anything later. Also, I'm more than happy to respond.
They will be putting up questions. In case there are any questions, they will be in the comment section. So probably we can answer them. Right now, there are not a lot of questions. They surely are comments that are there for you. So probably you can check them out.
I think the only thing that I would say is, if you can adopt, go ahead and adopt. If you can't adopt, then be a cheerleader for people who are taking that route, that journey. So at least be that. Look at it positively and just bring happiness and positivity to this thing. There are enough challenges in everybody's life. It's a choice that somebody has made. They need support. Everybody needs support in this kind of a choice. If you can adopt. If you can't, encourage people to be the best that they can.
That's such a lovely message. And I would ask all our audience to please visit the website. I've put it in the description box. Visit the NGO's website. There are a lot of insights which are there, so which will be very helpful. Thank you, Protima. It was like a lovely session. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to all our viewers for being there with us, and for everyone who would watch the recorded session. Thank you, and have a lovely evening ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.